The drama surrounding Kelsey Mitchell has officially erupted into one of the biggest stories in the WNBA this season. What started as a simple podcast interview spiraled into a storm that now threatens to fracture the fragile chemistry inside the Indiana Fever. A single sentence, spoken calmly, maybe even innocently, has sparked a firestorm of debate, outrage, and speculation. Fans, analysts, and even fellow players are now asking the same question. Did Kelsey Mitchell just take a subtle shot at Caitlin Clark, the superstar who's redefined everything about the Fever and arguably the league itself? In the beginning, things were calm, or at least they appeared to be. The Fever were coming off one of the most chaotic yet inspiring seasons in franchise history. Caitlin Clark's arrival had reignited the WNBA, packing arenas, drawing record TV ratings, and making Indiana relevant again. She wasn't just a rookie. She was a cultural phenomenon, a generational player who changed how people viewed women's basketball. But with all that light came shadows of tension, ego, and the uncomfortable shift that happens when a new star takes the throne. For years, Kelsey Mitchell had been the heart of the Fever. The veteran guard, known for her steady scoring and leadership, had been there through losing seasons, roster overhauls, and endless rebuilds. She was the face of the team long before the cameras showed up, the one who carried the franchise through obscurity. But the moment Caitlin Clark was drafted, the spotlight shifted. The stories weren't about Kelsey anymore. They were about Caitlin's vision, her range, her fire. Overnight, Kelsey went from being the franchise centerpiece to being a supporting character in someone else's story. And whether she admitted it or not, that reality was bound to sting. When Caitlin Clark joined the team, the Fever became a media circus. Every move was dissected. Every look was captured. The rookie's every smile became a headline. But underneath that buzz, a different energy simmered. The veterans, players like Kelsey who had been through the grind, were adjusting to a new hierarchy. Clark wasn't just a new teammate. She was the face of the entire organization. For some, that meant opportunity. For others, it meant losing a little piece of identity. Then came the podcast. Kelsey Mitchell appeared on Sue Bird's show, and fans expected a routine interview, a light conversation about leadership, growth, and how the team was adapting after a whirlwind season. But what came next, nobody saw coming. The discussion started harmlessly. Kelsey spoke about adjustments, chemistry, and the learning curve that comes with having a player as big as Caitlin join the team. But then, she said something that changed everything. The biggest thing I respected about Caitlin was that she never tried to be bigger than the program. Those 13 words were all it took. Within hours, social media exploded. That one line, "never tried to be bigger than the program," was clipped, slowed down, analyzed, and turned into a viral firestorm. Some fans called it a compliment, saying Kelsey was simply praising Caitlin's humility and team-first mindset. Others heard something else, a jab, a backhanded compliment wrapped in professionalism. To them, it sounded like Kelsey was minimizing Caitlin's impact, subtly reminding everyone that no matter how big the star, she wasn't above the system. It didn't take long for the internet to pick sides. One half of the fan base defended Kelsey, arguing that she was being a mature leader, emphasizing the importance of teamwork and structure. The other half, the Caitlin Clark faithful, saw it as pure disrespect. They believed Kelsey's words dripped with frustration, that she was a veteran struggling to accept a new era where the rookie wasn't just a player, she was the franchise. Sports creators, podcasters, and YouTube analysts jumped on it immediately. Channels flooded timelines with reaction videos. Commentators dissected every syllable, every pause, every facial expression. Some pointed out how her tone seemed controlled, as if she was carefully choosing her words to avoid saying what she really meant. Others noticed her expression tightening when Caitlin's name came up, as though she was forcing a compliment through clenched teeth. Soon, hashtags like #DarkStandWithKelsey and Respect Caitlin were trending side by side. Reddit threads lit up. Twitter Spaces turned into live debates. Even players from other teams started posting cryptic reactions, tweets about respect going both ways and leadership being tested. The Fever organization, meanwhile, stayed silent. No statements, no clarifications, just an uneasy calm while the internet burned. But the truth is, this wasn't just about one podcast. It was about something deeper, an identity crisis within the Indiana Fever. For years, Kelsey Mitchell was the program. She was the veteran voice, the one who survived the team's darkest years. But Caitlin Clark changed that overnight. Suddenly, the franchise wasn't defined by struggle. It was defined by hope, by fame, by a once-in-a-generation player who brought millions of new eyes to the game. And that's what made Kelsey's words sting. By saying Caitlin wasn't bigger than the program, it sounded like she was pushing back against the very thing that made the Fever relevant again. Fans heard defiance, maybe even denial in her tone. To them, Caitlin is the program now. She's the reason the seats are full, the cameras are on, and the merch is selling. And in that light, Kelsey's comments felt less like a compliment and more like resistance. Inside the locker room, things were reportedly tense long before the podcast. Players and insiders had whispered about the quiet friction between veterans and newcomers. Nothing explosive, but enough to make people notice. Small gestures, short answers during interviews, even the way certain players avoided eye contact when questions about Caitlin came up, it all hinted at something brewing beneath the surface. Still, Caitlin never took the bait. Throughout it all, she stayed silent. No subtweets, no interviews, no cryptic messages, just focus, work, poise. Every time a new controversy popped up online, she let her game do the talking. That silence only made fans love her more. To them, it wasn't weakness, it was power. A quiet strength that stood in stark contrast to the noise around her. Meanwhile, Kelsey's reputation began to shift. The player once known for her composure and professionalism was now being painted as bitter, jealous, and territorial. And whether that was fair or not didn't matter. The internet had made up its mind. Screenshots, clips, and commentary videos became permanent digital evidence. Every time someone rewatched the podcast, the narrative grew stronger. Independent creators, the ones not tied to big sports media, took over the story. They weren't worried about protecting reputations. They wanted truth, or at least engagement. "We're not rage baiting," one creator said in a viral post. "We're saying what everyone's thinking." That line alone sent waves through the fandom. Suddenly, this wasn't just a WNBA controversy. It was a cultural conversation about power, legacy, and the growing pains of women's sports in the spotlight, because that's what this all really represents, a collision between the old and the new. Kelsey Mitchell embodies the traditional model of leadership. Earn your respect through time, through loyalty, through seasons of suffering and rebuilding. Caitlin Clark represents the new model. Earn it through impact, visibility, and transcendent talent. The problem is, both versions can't lead at once. And that tension between seniority and stardom is exactly what makes this story so compelling and so combustible. Inside the Fever organization, sources say the coaches and PR team have been working overtime to smooth things over. Closed-door meetings, team dinners, media training sessions, all efforts to remind everyone that the real goal is winning. But the truth is, once trust cracks, it's hard to glue it back together. The locker room might smile for cameras, but behind those smiles are questions that don't go away. Who's really the leader? Who gets the last word? Who's the face of the team now? The viral backlash hasn't just damaged Kelsey's public image, it's changed how fans see the Fever. Once celebrated as a promising, united young team, they're now viewed through a lens of tension and ego. And in a league fighting for every ounce of respect and exposure, that perception matters more than ever. By the time the dust started to settle, the damage was already done. Kelsey Mitchell's name had become synonymous with controversy. Every major outlet picked up the story. Talk shows debated it. TikToks dissected it. And even casual fans who never watched a WNBA game before suddenly knew her name, for all the wrong reasons. Behind closed doors, team officials reportedly told players to stay off social media to let the noise die down. But the internet never really forgets. Screenshots circulate forever. Clips resurface. Narratives harden into reputation. And for Kelsey, this episode may linger for a long time. To her credit, she hasn't lashed out publicly. No angry rants, no defensive posts. But silence cuts both ways. Without context or explanation, the internet fills in its own answers, and rarely kindly. As for Caitlin Clark, she's continued to do what she's done all season, play. Every game she steps onto the court, she reminds the world why she's the centerpiece. The grace, the focus, the drive, it's all still there. And every win, every highlight, every record broken quietly reinforces what fans already believe, that this is her team, her era, and her time. In the end, the story of Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark isn't just about one leaked podcast or a misunderstood comment. It's about the growing pains of greatness, the friction that happens when a team caught between eras has to choose what kind of legacy it wants to build. The Fever can either unite behind their rising superstar, or let ego, pride, and perception tear them apart from the inside. Kelsey Mitchell still has the chance to write her next chapter, to show that her years of loyalty and leadership can coexist with Caitlin's brilliance. But if she can't, the story of the Fever will forever be remembered not just for their talent, but for the tension that nearly consumed them. Because in sports, as in life, legacy isn't just about how long you've been there, it's about what you do when the spotlight shifts away. And as this saga unfolds, one question remains. Can the Indiana Fever find unity in the storm? Or will this viral controversy mark the beginning of the end of their rise?